On to Luca.
Wow. I feel like a silkworm eating mulberry leaves and just spinning out threads of silk, which forms this mosaic tonight. I want to say thank you to Vic during the course of a few comments, but you brought this ship into safe harbor. I'd never imagined that it would take all these years, but you have brought it in and you brought great distinction to it. There's so much to say and so little time, but I do want to make some personal remarks because Vic has captured beyond anything I could have said about it professionally. I've known presidents of the university since I was deputy mayor of San Francisco in 1967, 40 years. Outstanding colleagues. I cannot imagine a greater honor bestowed on our industry, not just on me, by having you and Ann host this evening tonight. And I'm moved to say that one of the first comments I learned when I joined the Wine Institute was that struggle in the vineyards put character in the bottle. And what I learned was that some of the most interesting wines were from grapes that had to dig into really austere soil, searching for water to go deep. You and Ann have had to go deep into your own characters during this period of the last year. And you've come out of it with great integrity, with great character. I personally know, because you gave me the honor of being your senior advisor, of the work you've done for faculty retention for the 10 on 10 program with Gretchen Kalanji here tonight, with China, with India, what you've done in terms of the laboratories with Bruce Darling out in front and preserving these great institutions for us. Research and delivery. No one in agriculture in modern times in the university has gone and visited with us as you have. I know just in the last few days how many of the ag people through Steve Nation have told me how much they're going to miss you. But you know, something very important happened, and that is your marriage to Ann. And so, just like the astringency of tannin in our wines develops into incredible complexity and beauty, that's what your marriage represents. That was a Sicilian bug. That's telling me not to talk too long, I know. But the truth is that the best years of your lives are ahead of you. There's no doubt, and I refer to Michael Brown's reference in the papers recently. Michael is from UC Santa Barbara and chairman of the Academic Senate. You could easily have taken a different course and said, hey, all of those things you're talking about, that happened prior, but you didn't. And you've withstood that whole storm, and now with Ann here and with your life ahead of you, the best years are to come. Perry, if you could bring me my glass of wine, I want to propose a toast. To the People's President of the University of California and his lovely bride, to you, Bob, and to you, Ann, please join me in applauding the outstanding character and love that they represent to one another. Richard and Vic, the Bancroft is really not only here in California, but out the United States, leading a great debate that's taking place right now. Ken Burns with his documentary. Yesterday, Columbia University, when they were talking about the whole question of did the Holocaust take place, there is a big debate raging in terms of history as to whether it's a tool in the arsenal of politics and revision, or whether it's a wellspring for identity and for culture. And you have captured that with the collective memory and the series that you have. And I think more appropriate than ever has been the series that you've had on our wine pioneers and on our present generation. And with Vic Gerasi, he had this incredible insight. He's absolutely right. With Ruth and with Carol, I would respond to history and to questions, but he came up with the concept of the network. And as a result of that, permitted me to bring in everybody that I was dealing with. So it wasn't just I. I happened to be the recipient of this, but it is truly a celebration, a concelebration of an extraordinary group of people and the reflection of their economics is one part of it. The image of California. I don't know how many governors have told me that the California wine community's contribution to the image of the whole state is unparalleled. And I've been blessed to be with them for the last 32 years. When we're talking about with James Stofan, what role I would play tonight, I really wanted to introduce my colleagues because an incredible group of individuals. I had the easiest part of this history. I had the easiest part. Given my background when I came in and the experience I had had, it was not hard to deal with Ernest Gallo and Fred Franzia because I had come off of the streets of San Francisco. And so I was really prepared. We still have the living remnants of the monarchy here in our wine community. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And Vic brought that out in me. So rather than taking the time that is precious to recognize everybody in the audience who's here, the staff was outstanding, they're here. I have 10 chairmen from the past here, representing also right now with Jay and Delicato, the present chairman of Wine Institute. But the families, the attribute that brings here, in our alienated assembly line kind of society today, with the telexing that's going on and people forgetting calligraphy, their names are right on the label. And even the corporations that have come in have brought us global strength, have had to adopt the value system, and you've captured that value system, Vic. You really have, no question about it. So with your permission, I'd ask, because it would take all of the remaining time, if my colleagues from the wine community, and that includes associate members, John Frederickson, Narcy and Venus David, if they would stand, the staff in the wine community, so we could acknowledge this incredible Renaissance group. They are the Renaissance group, not I. Please join us. In the remaining few minutes that I have, and you're right, Vic, I like to tell stories. I want to acknowledge the turning point of my life, which was my marriage to my wife, Jo. More so than the usual discussions, she really interjected herself very, very clearly from the beginning, concerned about our children who are here, concerned about the future grandchildren and what kind of life they would lead. And so 32 years ago this summer, in fact, this month, I was in the midst of the zebra killings, the Zodiac killings, the SLA, the Black Panthers, a police and fire strike, and not easy. Joe Alioto asked me to take over the day-to-day operations of the city of San Francisco. And at the breakfast table, Joe noticed that she had read in the Chronicle that the presidency of the Wine Institute was open and that they were going to conduct a search. And she said, John, that's what you should be doing. I've really given up the office too much now. we had police protection on our children going to school. When I was on the White House, Lyndon Johnson was a tough taskmaster, and I was on the Vietnam Coordinating Committee during a war. And she really felt that there was the need for change. And I remember telling her, I said, honey, why are you so naive? I said, this is all cosmetic. The wine community is already, they've chosen their president and CEO. This is just to make sure that it looks all legitimate and on the up and up. No, she said, I really think this is for you. I said, thank you, honey. So, some Sicilian men have that fault. So I went on, and it was tough. And as you remember, there were 27 people killed inside of 2 months. And it was really not on my mind, the next step. And then our police and fire services went on strike. And I was in the middle of all that. And somebody, kidnapped Patty Hearst. And so, of course, our police were involved. And then Jerry Brown wanted to send in the highway patrol across the bridge to settle our police strike. And our police said, if they cross the bridge, we'll shoot them. And we had to declare an emergency to stop all that. So in the midst of all this, without me knowing it, Joe had sent in my name and my resume to the executive search firm, which was headed by a man named Jack Yelverton and being hired by the Wine Institute. And I got a call from Mr. Yelverton, and I said, I'm not interested, please, thank you. And that was what I thought was it. And I told her that night, I said, what a funny thing, I got this call, and she said, now you have really revealed to me the limits of your capacity. All right, so during this time, she contacted Henry Berman. I don't know if any of you remember Henry. He was one of our commissioners. She contacted everybody to try to see if there could be some grappling hooks into this search for me. And we went up to Tahoe, summer of 1975. The Walt Harvey House, was it? Oh, yeah, that's where we were, and I got this call, and it was Mr. DeLuca. There are a number of people calling, but we want you to know that our people are not interested in you. And I said, terrific. Now I have an excuse with my wife so she can get off my back. And continued on. Well, those of you who know Jo know how she can get inspired. I mean, this is a woman from Chicago. She knows how to get things done. She called David Rockefeller, Bill Moyers, Jack Valenti, my big brother at the White House, Frank Church, Senator Frank Church, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, whom I had served. Finally, I guess it was Bob Ivey and others said, just to get this guy out of here, let's have an interview with him. And so it was arranged for me to have an interview, and I thought it was a golden opportunity for me to answer this little lobbying that was going on from pillow to pillow. And we finally had this, in the midst of all this, it's still a fog to me, we had this interview set up at Guild, which was then in San Francisco. And this wonderful gentleman who I came to love, Ed Mirasu, greeted me at the door, and he said, you got 3 strikes against you, kid. I happened to be in the newspapers that morning. Talk about being radioactive. The ACLU had brought a charge against me because I put in a dragnet against blacks, because it was young blacks that were shooting and killing whites, and we didn't want it to be called zebra, but that's the way it was being called. So he said, let's come on in and let's get it over with. And I said, Mr. Mirasu, that's terrific. I had the easiest interview in my life. Nothing to gain, nothing to lose. I just wanted to get it over with. And we did. I had a police car waiting for me, went back to City Hall. And I thought that was a wonderful development. I didn't really understand the profound desire that Jo had for me to have this job. She said, it's just perfect for you. All the things you've done, this is the natural conversion. Now, there is an old Greek axiom. This is in your honor, Kay and Robert. There's an old Greek axiom. Because you're mortal, do not prophesize the outcome of tomorrow's dawn. And when you meet the man of the year, don't try to predict his lifeline. Joe did prophesize not only the dawn, but the whole day and everything that has followed. And she predicted correctly in terms of my lifeline the full measure of devotion that I would give to this industry as I got to know people. I was called to be interviewed by the whole executive committee, which existed at that time. And there are three people here tonight who were part of that: Bob Gallo, John Fredrickson, and Fred Franzia. And as I went around, I was so impressed by the culture, the family love. I started understanding why Joe was so interested in me pursuing this. Louis Martini and Joe Heitz, two great men, they invited me and Joe to come to Napa to meet a lot of Napa people to have lunch. And we just came and we sat and we talked, and it went on. And the lunch turned into a pretty lengthy day. And I think it was about 3 or 4 days later, I heard from the grapevine that Joe Heitz had told Louis Martini, this is our guy. He's gone 5, 6 hours and never once did he get up to go to the bathroom. I said, well, I'm beginning to understand where they're coming from. Ernest Gallo called me, and Bob and he had me over for lunch. That was before they had their own dining room at the headquarters. And I don't know if you remember, Bob, but Ernest ordered a beer. I said, boy, this guy really knows how to test you. So when they asked me, I said, I'll have a Hardy Burgundy. And they brought the Hardy Burgundy, and I tasted it. And Ernest said to me, tell me that isn't the finest red wine you ever had. I said, with all due respects, Mr. Gallo, no. He said, no. I said, it's just on a par with my father's Dago Red. He made home winemaking. And I'll never forget, he gave me a smile. I said, okay, I'd like to wrestle with this man's mind too, which I've done for the last 30 years. Well, you go fast forward. You come to an evening like tonight with this great cross-section of love and affection. And you realize the wisdom of this woman who wanted to make sure about her family, about our children and grandchildren, what kind of life they would have. And they have given our children and us both roots and wings to have a sense of community and wings to really operate. As I said, I had the easiest of all assignments, and that was to make recommendations and to pursue policy. And as recent as this week, Dan Turrentine's group had this announcement that people are positive about the future and put forward, the changes in direct shipping and changes in the perception of wine in America. I never meant it to be a marketing and sales ploy. Everybody says, gee, isn't that terrific? Bob Mullen is here recently with the Santa Cruz wineries. He pointed out what a positive attitude. It was never intended for that. Vic knows because he debriefed me over time. It was designed to stop the lawyers from using us as a great marketing tool for litigation, for us being a sin industry and excise taxes of ripping us apart. And I wanted to save, because Bob Gallo inspired me about sustainability, the image we had of being stewards of the land and agriculture. And you can't do that if people are thinking you as a public health hazard. Now, it's had a marketing effect, but it was designed for public policy. And that was the biggest change. The board of directors could have gone any other way over this period of time. And with the leadership that's in here, across the board, they really understood what I was trying to do. And we never bought an ad. We never put in an advertisement for us on the radio or television. It's all been science And this leads me to the final conclusion. The University of California was integral to this whole development about putting us in the ledger of nutrition. Linda Bassan, who's here, and Andy Waterhouse and John Kinsella, who's passed away, we worked together to get into the Appropriations Committee research on the health effects, not health benefits, of drinking in moderation. Ann Veneman, a graduate of the Goldman School at UC Berkeley, she was the one who gave us the grant on antioxidants. Now we have the Bancroft at Berkeley that is recording this, and I'm proud to say my undergraduate and graduate degrees were received at UCLA. So the role, there are people here from the, I haven't seen many of the people here from School of Viticulture and Enology at UC Davis who have come here. All of you have honored, this is a celebration, not just about me, but of this incredible group. And you, Joe, you had these dreams for us. And there's been a harvest of these dreams for us and for our children. Thank you very much.